All right. So are you ready to dive into this deep dive on Dutch Bros?
Yeah, let's do it. I'm pretty excited about this one.
I am too. I mean, everyone knows about Starbucks, right?
Right.
But there's this other company that's been generating a lot of buzz.
Yeah.
And they're called Dutch Bros. And they've got like this really kind of infectious energy and a very unique approach to growth.
Yeah, they're not just serving coffee.
Yeah.
They're really building like a brand experience
Yeah.
that people are connecting with.
That's true.
And it's reflected, when you look at their financials, which we'll get into,
Yeah.
they're doing really well. And the Motley Fool actually has done some analysis on them. And their projections for Dutch Bros over the next 3 years are really interesting.
Yeah, that's what we're gonna dive into today.
Yeah.
So Dutch Bros started as like a single drive-through
Yeah.
back in 1994.
94 Grants Pass, Oregon.
Grants Pass, Oregon. Okay. So how did they go from this single location to like nearly 1,000 shops in just a few decades?
Well, key turning point was when they decided to embrace franchising in 1999.
Okay.
And so this allowed them to expand super rapidly, without having to shoulder all the costs of opening all these new stores.
Right.
And so as of June of this year, they have 912 shops across the U.S.
Okay, so they've got the shop expansion down.
Yeah.
But are they actually making money?
Yeah, they are.
Wow.
Over the past 3 years, Dutch Bros has been delivering some pretty impressive results.
Okay.
Their revenue has been growing consistently, same-store sales are increasing, and their profit margins are also getting better.
Okay, can you give us an idea of just how much revenue growth we're talking?
Yeah, so like in 2021, revenue jumped over 50%,
Wow.
then almost 50% again in 2022.
Wow.
And then even with, a little bit of a slowdown this year, they still saw over 30% growth.
Okay, so they're not just expanding, they're doing it and they're making money.
Yeah, they're doing it profitably.
That's impressive.
Yeah.
So how are they able to stand out in such a competitive market?
Well, one key thing is their fortressing strategy.
Fortressing strategy.
Yeah, so instead of, spreading themselves thin, like across the country, they focus on saturating specific regions with new stores.
Okay.
And so, like, imagine you live in a town and suddenly, like, there's a Dutch Bros on every corner.
Right.
You can't help but notice them. And so this creates, like, a sense of ubiquity.
Yeah.
And it builds brand awareness very organically.
I like that.
Yeah, without having to rely on, like, these expensive marketing campaigns.
So they're letting their presence do the marketing for them.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
Very smart.
So we've all been dealing with inflation.
Yeah.
How has Dutch Bros navigated that?
Yeah. So they've strategically raised prices to help offset some of those inflationary pressures.
Okay.
But what's interesting is that they've been able to maintain pretty healthy profit margins, even with those price increases.
Okay.
And that suggests that customers are willing to pay a premium for the Dutch Bros experience.
Okay, so let's talk about the future.
Yeah.
What's the outlook for Dutch Bros in 2024 and beyond?
Yeah, so the projections are very optimistic. They're planning on opening at least 150 new stores in 2024 alone.
Wow.
Yeah, and they're expecting continued same-store sales growth. And if all goes according to plan, their revenue could jump by another 26 to 27%.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
What about profitability? Will their margins stay strong?
Well, we can look at a metric called adjusted EBITDA
Okay.
to kind of understand profitability.
So adjusted EBITDA, so what is that exactly?
Yeah, so essentially it measures their operating profitability.
Okay.
And the good news is that their adjusted EBITDA is projected to increase by a pretty healthy 25 to 31%.
So they're not just growing, they're growing and making more profit.
Exactly, growing profitably.
So investing in Dutch Bros is like getting a double shot of espresso.
Uh-huh. I like that.
Fast growth and strong profitability that should wake up any investor's portfolio. But what's driving this continued success? Is it just the coffee or is there something more?
It's definitely more than just the coffee. They've cultivated a really unique brand identity
Okay.
that resonates with a certain type of customer.
Like what kind of customer?
They're kind of like the cool, rebellious cousin of Starbucks.
Okay.
They're all about that, like, energetic vibe, friendly service, and a sense of community.
Yeah, you walk into a Dutch Bros and you're greeted with a smile, maybe a fist bump,
Exactly.
maybe a personalized drink recommendation.
Right. It feels like you're part of something.
Yeah.
Not just a transaction.
Right.
And they've created a culture where their employees, who they call baristas. Baristas, yeah.
Okay.
Genuinely seem to love their jobs.
Yeah.
And that positive energy, it's contagious.
Mm-hmm.
It makes the customers feel good and it keeps them coming back for more.
So it's like they've cracked the code on creating an engaging customer experience?
Yeah, I think
No,
so.
they're not just relying on good vibes, are they? What about their menu?
Yeah, their menu's really key.
Yeah.
It's a key differentiator.
Okay.
They're not afraid to
Y-
experiment and offer something different.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
they're catering to like a younger, more adventurous audience.
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned boba protein, coffee, specialty sodas, like they've got it all.
Yeah.
And they're constantly coming up with new and exciting flavors.
It's like they're tapping into that same energy and creativity that you see in the craft beer industry. When craft beer first started taking off.
Right.
It was all about pushing the boundaries and experimenting with flavor.
Exactly. And offering something unique.
Yeah.
And just like those craft breweries built these really loyal followings by offering something different. Dutch Bros is kind of doing the same thing in the coffee world.
Okay.
They're not just competing on price or convenience. They're offering an experience that you can't get anywhere else.
Okay, so we've talked about the brand, we've talked about the culture, the menu. You mentioned some pretty impressive growth projections. Can we break those down a little bit further?
Yeah, so analysts are predicting that Dutch Bros will achieve a 22% compound annual growth rate, or a CAGR,
Okay.
for their revenue from 2023 to 2026.
22%.
22%, yeah.
Okay.
And to put that into perspective, that means that their revenue is expected to grow by an average of 22% each year.
Each year.
Yeah, for the next 3 years.
Wow. Okay, so if someone invested in Dutch Bros today, they're essentially betting on their ability to maintain that really impressive growth.
Right.
But what about their earnings? What kind of returns can investors expect to see?
So along with the revenue growth, their profitability is also expected to increase significantly.
Okay.
And so analysts forecast that their adjusted EBITDA,
Right.
which we talked about earlier, it measures their operating profitability.
Yeah.
They're projecting that to grow at a KGR of 24% from 2023 to 2026.
Okay. I'm a pretty simple coffee drinker, not a Wall Street whiz.
Right.
What does that mean for me?
Yeah. So basically it means that the company's becoming more efficient at generating profits.
Oh.
And that translates to a higher potential return on your investment.
Got it.
And, they're projecting that their earnings per share will jump from just 3 cents in 2023 to a much healthier 46 cents by 2026.
Okay, so if you're looking for a stock that has the potential to deliver both impressive revenue growth and solid earnings growth,
Yeah.
Dutch Bros is worth considering.
Yeah, definitely.
And they're trading at, what, about 3 times next year's sales?
Yeah, about 3 times next year's sales and 18 times their adjusted EBITDA,
Okay, so that means...
which suggests that their stock is still pretty reasonably priced.
Okay, that's good, because sometimes when a company is growing this fast,
Right.
the stock price can kind of get ahead of itself.
Yeah, absolutely. It can get a little frothy.
But it sounds like Dutch Bros is still flying a little bit under the radar.
Yeah, they're not getting the same level of attention as some of the bigger players in the market.
Right.
Which, that can create an opportunity for investors who are looking for a company with strong fundamentals and a lot of room to run.
Okay, so we've talked about the brand, the culture, the menu, the growth projections, the valuation, but let's be realistic here.
Yeah,
Every company faces challenges.
absolutely.
What are some of the bumps in the road that Dutch Bros might encounter?
Well, maintaining that rapid growth rate won't be easy.
Right.
They need to find prime locations for all these new stores. They need to hire and train qualified staff, make sure that the quality is consistent across all their locations.
Yeah.
And, they need to do all this while staying true to their brand and their culture.
So it's kind of like walking a tightrope.
Yeah, it is.
You need to scale up, but not lose what makes them special.
Exactly.
What other challenges?
Well, competition is always a factor in the food and beverage industry.
Of course.
They've carved out a nice niche for themselves, but they're going to need to continue to innovate and differentiate themselves to stay ahead of the curve.
Yeah.
And not just from the big guys like Starbucks,
Right.
but also from these other emerging coffee chains and independent coffee shops.
It's a crowded market.
Yeah, it is very crowded.
You can't just rest on your laurels.
You can't just sit there and do nothing.
Exactly.
You got to constantly evolve and find new ways to stay relevant.
And then, of course, there's always the broader economic environment.
Oh, yeah.
We've got inflation, we've got rising interest rates, a potential recession. These are all factors that can impact consumer spending.
Yeah,
And it can make it harder for them to achieve their goals.
absolutely.
So how have they handled economic uncertainty in the past?
Well, they navigated the pandemic successfully.
Right.
And they've managed to maintain profitability even during these times of high inflation.
Okay.
So this suggests that they have a really strong management team
Yeah,
that's capable of making smart decisions and adjusting to changing conditions.
that's reassuring.
Yeah.
So what's the bottom line for investors who are considering adding Dutch Bros to their portfolio?
Well, it's essential to remember that investing in any individual stock
Hmm.
carries inherent risks.
Right.
Past performance is not a guarantee of future results.
Ors.
But if Dutch Bros can continue executing on their plans and deliver on their growth projections, there's certainly a strong potential for significant upside.
And their valuation makes them even more attractive.
Yeah, especially when you compare them to some of these other high-growth companies in the market.
But it's crucial to consider your own investment goals, your risk tolerance, and your overall portfolio diversification.
Absolutely.
So as always, do your own research, consult with a financial advisor before making any decisions.
Exactly.
So as we start to wrap up this first part of our deep dive into Dutch Bros, what are some key takeaways for our listeners?
Well, first and foremost, Dutch Bros is a high-growth company with a really compelling story and a lot of potential.
Yeah.
They've shown they can execute on their plans and deliver those impressive financial results even in a challenging economic environment.
Yeah.
They've got a unique brand identity, a loyal customer base, and a leadership team that's really passionate about their mission.
Yeah, and they're well positioned to capitalize on that growing demand for specialty coffee and those unique coffee experiences.
For sure.
But, we've got to remember there are risks associated with any investment.
Of course.
And Dutch Bros faces some potential challenges like maintaining that rapid growth rate, managing competition, navigating economic uncertainty.
Right.
Ultimately, the decision of whether or not to invest in Dutch Bros is a personal one.
Yeah.
That should be based on your individual financial circumstances and your investment goals.
Absolutely.
So they really have a strong identity.
Yeah, it's like they've created this tribe of Dutch Bros enthusiasts.
Yeah, and it makes you wonder, is this a sign of something bigger? Are consumers becoming more discerning, more selective about where they spend their money
Yeah, I think so.
and where they spend their time?
Yeah, especially younger generations.
Yeah.
They're looking for brands that align with their values.
Right.
Offer something unique
Yeah.
that make them feel like they're part of something bigger than themselves.
It's not just about the product anymore, right? It's about the story.
Yeah,
It's about the experience, the connection.
exactly. And the Dutch Bros has done a really good job of crafting that,
Yeah.
they've built a brand that's
Yeah.
fun, it's energetic, it's inclusive,
Yeah.
and that really resonates with people.
So if we kind of zoom out and look at the bigger picture, what does the rise of Dutch Bros tell us about the future of the coffee industry? Or even the future of retail in general?
I think it suggests that the days of mass market, one-size-fits-all brands are kind of numbered.
Yeah.
Consumers are demanding more personalization, more authenticity,
Yeah.
more experiences that cater to their individual tastes and preferences.
It's like that saying, right? Give the people what they want.
Exactly.
And what they want is a brand that gets them, that speaks to their soul.
Yeah, a brand that speaks to their soul.
Yeah.
A brand that they can connect with on a deeper level.
Right. And companies that can adapt to that.
Yeah.
Those are the companies that are going to thrive.
The companies that create those
Yeah.
meaningful connections,
Yeah.
those are the ones that are going to win.
So, as we kind of continue this deep dive, I have a question for you.
Yeah.
And this one's for all the coffee lovers and the investors out there.
Right.
Could Dutch Bros be the next Starbucks?
Well, that is the million-dollar question, isn't it?
It is.
It's impossible to predict the future with certainty.
Right.
But Dutch Bros has a lot of things going for them.
Yeah.
They've got a strong brand. They've got a loyal customer base. They've got that unique growth strategy we talked about.
Yeah.
And they have a leadership team that is passionate about their mission.
Yeah.
But they also face some challenges like maintaining that rapid growth rate,
Mm-hmm.
managing competition, navigating economic uncertainty.
Of course. So while we can't say for sure if they'll be the next Starbucks, we
Right.
can say this.
Okay, what's that?
Dutch Bros is a company worth watching.
Yeah.
They're shaking things up. They're pushing the boundaries. They're creating a coffee experience that's truly unique. And that's something to pay attention to, whether you're a coffee aficionado, a potential investor, or just someone who's interested in the business world.
Yeah, well said. I think it's time to grab another cup of coffee and ponder the future of this exciting company.
You know what? I think you're right. I'm going to go get another cup right now.
Sounds good.
All right. Well, hey, thanks to all of our listeners for joining us on this deep dive.
Yeah, thanks for listening.
Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, And keep those coffee cups full.
Cheers to that.
It's amazing how they've really tapped into something more than just coffee.
Yeah.
It's not just a product, it's an experience, it's a community.
A feeling.
A feeling, yeah. And it makes you wonder if this is kind of a sign of like a larger shift in consumer behavior. Are people becoming more discerning, more selective about where they spend their money
I think so.
and their time?
Especially younger generations. They're really looking for brands that kind of align with their values, offer something different.
It's not just about the product anymore, it's about the story.
The experience. The connection.
The connection, yeah.
Dutch Bros has done a great job with that.
Yeah.
They've built a brand that's fun, energetic, inclusive.
Yeah.
And that resonates.
So if we kind of zoom out and look at the bigger picture, what does the rise of Dutch Bros tell us about the future of the coffee industry or even retail in general?
I think it shows that, those mass market, one-size-fits-all brands, they might be on their way out.
Yeah.
Consumers are demanding more personalization, more authenticity, more experiences that cater to their individual tastes.
It's like that saying, right? Give the people what they want.
Right.
And what they want is a brand that speaks to their soul.
Exactly. A brand that gets them, that they can connect with on a deeper level.
And the companies that can adapt to that are the ones that are going to thrive.
The companies that can create those meaningful connections.
Yeah.
Those are the ones that are going to succeed.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into Dutch Bros,
I
have one final question for you, and this is for the coffee lovers and investors out there.
All right, let's hear it.
Could Dutch Bros be the next Starbucks?
Well, that's the million-dollar question.
It is.
It's tough to predict the future.
Right.
But Dutch Bros has a lot going for them.
Yeah.
Strong brand, a loyal customer base, that unique growth strategy, passionate leadership team.
They do.
But we've got to acknowledge they face challenges too.
Yeah.
Maintaining that growth managing competition.
That economic uncertainty.
Exactly. So it's tough to say for sure if they'll be the next Starbucks.
Right.
But they're definitely a company worth keeping an eye on.
They are. They're shaking things up. They're pushing the boundaries. They're creating a coffee experience that's truly unique.
And that's something to pay attention to.
Whether you're a coffee lover, an investor,
or just someone who enjoys following the business world.
Well, this has been a lot of fun. I've learned a lot about Dutch Bros.
Me too.
So I want to thank all of our listeners for joining us on this deep dive into Dutch Bros.
Yes, thank you for listening.
We'll see you next time.
See ya.